please rise. Approach the pillars. All men the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
As a representative of the town of Afton, I welcome you here today. It's interesting to see those I know and those I had in school and those that had me in school. There aren't many of those that had me in school. A show of hands, I think it's Independence Day. I'm going to ask a question and I want you to raise your hand. You that have served in the military, raise your hand. Thank you. You that served in World War II, raise your hand. You that served in Korean War, raise your hand. There's only two people that I know in Starbody that raise their hand on both of those. And that is Brother Bagley and Lee Call. That's amazing. Lee Call's uniform is going to be displayed at the new Readiness Center, along with, how many of you remember Roscoe Titzer? His World War I uniform is also going to be displayed there. So, a great opportunity to be around some real patriotic people. Another question I'd like to ask is, how many of you here were taught to swim by Mrs. Hyde? She tried. That wasn't her fault if you failed. It's an honor to induct people into the Afton Hall of Fame, Heritage Hall of Fame. It's called the Afton because it's housed here in the Civic Center, which is built and used mostly by the Afton people. However, we could say Star Valley, and it would mean the same thing as far as that goes, because all three of these people and those that have been inducted before have had a great impact on the people of Star Valley and continue to have that. So I don't want to say anything more, but thank you for being here, and it's an honor to be circled amongst great people. It makes it a lot easier to try to be a good person when you know you've got good people around you. So we'll turn the time over to the program people, and appreciate you being here and enjoy.
Thank you, Brother Bill. Appreciate that very much. Our three inductees into the Afton Heritage Hall of Fame for 2015 are chosen again from many wonderful nominees. The longer I work with this committee, the more I am impressed with the great men and women who have contributed so very much to our community. If you have a nominee that was not selected, remember that we have a long and impressive list to choose from, and it is not necessary to submit another nomination application. They will be considered again next year. I express my deep appreciation to our committee and to the families of our ancestors for their many hours given preparing for this day. Most of all, today we are grateful for the lives of our three wonderful inductees. Their contributions to our community have much in common, and at the same time they are very unique. They each sacrificed much to make very needed contributions to our happiness. We thank their families for being here and pray that the gratitude of our community for their wonderful contributions will be long remembered by their posterity. First, Hyrum Don Carlos Clark. For those of you young kids who don't figure out what happened there, he was named after both of Joseph Smith's brothers, Hyrum and Don Carlos. He came to Star Valley in the very early days. In 1888, he moved his wife and 4 children into a 2-room dirt-roofed log cabin on a 160-acre homestead. His hard work and dedication built his holdings to 3,000 acres and 1,000 head of cattle. His success led him to serve as county commissioner, county school trustee, and president of the Uintah County School District. He successfully mediated disputes between the cattlemen and the sheepmen. He was a great friend to the Indians. Washakie dubbed him Big White Chief. He served in his ward bishopric, on the Star Valley High Council, as chairman of the finance committee for the Star Valley Stake Tabernacle, and several missions for the church. We are grateful for the heritage he left us. Martha Lagerberg will represent the family in accepting his induction into the Hall of Fame, and Jeff Clark will unveil his portrait.
Thank you, Brother Carl. It's been my privilege to study the life of my great-grandfather as I prepare to give tribute to him this day, and it's just wonderful to be in this beautiful valley. And as I'm honored to give this talk in honor of my great-grandfather, Hyrum Don Carlos Clark, I wanted just to mention Ruth Peterson, this cute little lady that's probably across the parking lot working at the Historical Society today, because she's the one that my husband and I talked to, and she said, you should submit him to the Hall of Fame after finding out things that he had done. So if it were not for her, this would probably not be happening today. However, I really do believe that Hyrum Don Carlos Clark, otherwise known as Hyde when he lived here, was one of the early stars of this beautiful valley. And it was in fulfillment of one of his dreams that he first came here. He had a desire to have a cattle ranch, and he had moved from Oakley, Idaho here after coming here all by himself to check out a squatter's claim, which Brother Carl mentioned was 160 acres and in Auburn. So it was a very primitive lifestyle, and Hyrum Don Carlos Clark, as he wrote his autobiography shortly before he passed away in 1938, he wrote that Eliza did not want to come here. She dreaded it, but she supported him in good teamwork anyway. So of course, without her support, he would not have done the things that he did. Along with his dream of becoming a cattle rancher, of course, he wanted to be a good provider for many children. He had 13 children by my grandmother Eliza Porter, and later Mary Robinson, with whom he had 5 children. And my grandmother was just 5 years old when she came here, and her father, my great-grandfather, was a man of character, convictions, and a man of great honesty and integrity. He went through hard times here. It was what I think of as the best of times and the worst of times. He was known for his credit being as good as his word, and after adding on and making the log cabin more livable, he was in the process of building a 2-story home in Auburn, and a neighbor boy who was working as a carpenter on the new home approached my great-grandfather one day and said that he would like to be paid for his month's wages. So my great-grandfather reached into his vest pocket and couldn't find his checkbook, but he pulled out an old pencil, and between the two of them, they could not find a slip of paper, and so he picked up off the ground a cedar shingle about the size of his hand, and he just started writing on it and wrote the name of the Valley Bank and paid to the order of Jeff Jenkins and signed his cattle brand, HYD. And the following Monday morning, when Jeff came to continue his work on the larger home, he said, "Yes, sir, by gosh darn, if they didn't cash that chip of wood," and he was wearing his new pair of Levi's that he had bought with his month's wages. And another story that my grandmother told was of Chief Washington coming to their home, and her father said to her, "Mary, I want you to meet a good Indian." And so she said she reached out with her trembling arm and slender hand and shook his hand, and she said that he had long braids on both sides of his head, and then he sat down to eat with them. And so she said that as they ate, he didn't say much at all, but mostly grunted. And she said that they learned a few Indian words, and her father would trade things like flour and corn for moccasins and beads with the Indians. And Thelma, one of my great aunts, told the story of Chief Washington coming to their home. And Hyrum Don Carlos Clark, or Hyde, was known to pull people's achy teeth. And I'm not sure what tools he used, but at any rate, Chief Washington was in extreme pain with a toothache, and knowing that my great-grandfather acted as a part-time dentist, came to the door wondering if he could pull this achy tooth for him. And so my great-grandfather said to Eliza, "I want you to take the children in the back room and lock the door, because I don't want them hearing all of the, or seeing all of the commotion," as this Chief Washington was in such great pain. So she did that, and of course Thelma could hear through the door anyway, the moaning and the groaning, and she said that after the tooth was pulled, she must have been looking out the window as this procedure was done outside in front of the home. And so Chief Washington was writhing in pain, and then he hugged my great-grandfather's feet, and he said, "Hippo wino, big chief." I guess that means many thanks or something to that effect. At any rate, he had great compassion, not only with his own family members and the community members, but people with skin of a different color. It did not matter to him at all, the color of their skin. And a final story that I'd like to tell is one that has fascinated me ever since I heard it. I'm not sure how many years ago, but after Hyde had lost most everything that he had here because of bad economic and weather conditions, he lost almost everything that he had, and part of that was overextended credit to some of his own relatives. He went back to Farmington, and as he was on the streets of Salt Lake one day walking, a Norwegian sculptor, Torleif Kenneth, approached him. Torleif Kenneth is the one who sculpted this. This is a replica that my husband and I picked up when our children and we participated in the Hokumar pageant. At any rate, so Elwin Clark, one of my great-uncles, had posed for the body of this Angel Moroni statue, which now is on top of the Hokumar in New York, in Palmyra, and Elwin rented a home from this Norwegian sculptor, and so they got to know each other quite well. And of course, Elwin was very muscular, and my father's cousin Dorothy, who I just got to meet for the first time, who's about 89 years old, she told me that she recalls vividly her father coming home, and he said how tired he got of holding his arm up like this as he was posing. And he did other work besides the bricklaying. He did some artwork, painting of plaster Paris things for Torleif Kenneth. At any rate, the Angel Moroni basically had appeared to Kenneth, letting Kenneth know which sketch he had drawn out of 7 sketches was most appropriate for Kenneth to use for this Angel Moroni statue. So when Kenneth would need a model, he would go roaming the streets of Salt Lake and would walk wherever he went. And when he saw my great-grandfather, he knew that that was the very face and head that he was looking for. He wanted an older gentleman, as opposed to Elwin, to pose for the head and the face. So at any rate, he persuaded him in his thick Norwegian accent. he would please come to his studio to pose for the Angel Moroni. Well, he persuaded him to come, and when he came to the studio, lo and behold, Elwyn was right there in the studio, his son, and the three of them did not know in advance that Elwyn's father would be chosen to pose for the same Angel Moroni. So the story was written up after Dorothy Clark Nielsen and her husband were called to Palmyra, and she did not request going to Palmyra. She requested a family history mission or a temple mission, but when she was called with her husband to go to Palmyra, she knew, the Lord and I both know this story. And so that story was published in the LDS Church News under the title, The Face of an Angel. So I believe that not only did my great-grandfather have the face of an angel, but lived his life as Moroni, the angel. He loved his family, his God. He was a faithful missionary and would tell his son, when his son asked him, one of his sons, why he didn't ever talk about his missionary experiences when he was just a young missionary in Tennessee with his uncle Edward Stevenson. Tears rolled down his cheeks, and he said he was always very, very sad that that mission had to be cut short because he contracted malaria. And he filled his final and third mission when he was 78, and so just the last few years of his life, he fulfilled a greater mission to California. And I think, or I should say I know, that the same could be said of Hyrum Don Carlos as was said of the Angel Moroni in the Book of Mormon. I say unto you, if all men had been and were and ever would be like unto Moroni, behold, the very powers of hell would have been shaken forever. Yea, the devil would never have power over the hearts of the children of men. And so I'm honored to be the granddaughter, great-granddaughter of a great and grand star of this valley who, although he went through terrible, terrible hardships, and that two-story home that was eventually built was burned down shortly after his son Hyrum, who he loved as Abraham loved Isaac, was killed in a hunting accident. He persevered. He was a man of great faith and loyalty, compassion, and convictions. Thank you.
Could we have all the Clark family stand, please? Let's give them another hand. Where are you, Jeff?
Right here. Here we go. Just a second here. I'm going to take a picture of this.
Don't stand in front of the camera, Jeff.
Sure.
Jeff? Jeff?
There we go.
Randy, you're in the way.
You're just like my dad and mom. You never get the right name.
I have to call the roll. Hold it up high, Jeff.
There we go.
If you had a beard, Jeff, you look just like him.
Pull out the side, yeah.
My face is more like
It does look quite like him, doesn't it?
All right.
Thank you very much, Martha, all of you for your support. Violet Ruth Lancaster Hyde was a second-generation Star Valley girl who was born here and loved living here for all of her life. Besides her contributions in family history, Daughters of the Utah Pioneers, art classes for Western Wyoming College, the restoration of the Auburn Rock Church, and many church colonies. Most of all, Aunt Ruth taught more than 8,000 of us how to swim. At the age of 77, she was still giving swimming lessons. The family wrote in her history that people are always saying to them, "Your mother taught me how to swim," and that some of them were in their 60s and 70s. Well, I'm in my 80s, and she taught me how to swim. However, I never knew until her nomination that she had said, when she was just learning to swim, quote, "When I stepped through the door of the pool, it was just like something hit me in the face. I was so afraid of the water." Myself and thousands of others are grateful to Ruth for helping us overcome some of the significant fears of our lives. Norma Pope will represent the family in accepting Ruth's induction into the Hall of Fame. She's Ruth's daughter. And Ruth's son, Cleland, will unveil the portrait.
Like you said, I'm Norma Polk, and I'm Violet Ruth Hyde's daughter.
Gotta get closer to the mic.
As a family member, we are so grateful for the recognition of this to our mother. Our mother would be deeply honored by this recognition. I'm going to talk about some of the highlights of my mother's life. Number one, of course, most people know it was teaching swimming. It started back, my mother was terribly afraid of the water. When she was about 10 years old, she got pushed into some water that was over her head, and she was able to get out. And she said after she got out, she had an infected ear and a terrible, terrible, dreadful fear of the water. And when Mom and Dad bought the Sulphur Springs, they built a swimming pool, and she needed to learn, she decided she needed to learn how to swim to be able to have the swimming pool. And so Dad, being a really good swimmer, taught her how to swim. She learned to respect the water instead of being afraid of it. All 6 of us kids were born before she ever learned how to swim. I've got allergies and my eyes are watering and I can't see what I've got wrong. She took classes from 2 different instructors to be able to teach Red Cross swimming classes. I also took classes with her. And one of the instructors was from Rock Springs and one was from Ohio, and we learned also life-saving skills. She taught for many years in Red Cross and also private classes. She wanted other people to learn how to swim so that they could be safe and enjoy the water. She ended up teaching around 8,000 kids and adults. She also taught life-saving and worked with the Scouts so that they could pass up their merit badges. There was an article in the Star Valley paper in 1990, and the headline said, "Ruth Hyde, the mother of swimming," and she ended up getting a citation for exceptional volunteer service as a mother of swimming for Star Valley. She taught into her 80s. She taught classes. Even after the pools were closed, people were after her to teach. And so she started teaching classes at a motel here in Afton until after she was 8 years old. Some of the other accomplishments my mother had was she was an accomplished artist. She taught art, taught painting for the Western Wyoming College. She painted a lot of pictures of her own. She sold a bunch, and a lot of them she couldn't let go of. She taught history classes about Star Valley and also about the Indians that come to Sulphur Springs for the heating water. She was LDS. She loved the church. She held a lot of different positions in the church. She did a lot of genealogy, also researched the names for the church, for the temple work. And she was a member of the Daughter of Utah Pioneers. She also taught for the she was secretary of the elementary high school here in Afton for a time, and sometimes she was she cooked for the the schools all over the valley for several years. She had, wanted always to learn how to play piano. She had never learned Lancaster piano. One of the teachers that taught piano in Carson High School wanted to learn how to swim. And so Mom taught him how to swim, and he taught her how to play the piano. So that worked out great for him. Mom loved camping with the family. Goodness forgive me. For the family. She loved to fish. Her and Dad went fishing quite a bit together, and one time they were fishing in Jackson Lake through the ice. And Mom caught a 25-pound fish, and Dad helped her bring it in, so they argued back and forth who really caught it. One thing that I respected about my mother and Dad is their honesty. Their truthfulness. They were a great example to me and to us children. They taught us how to work. I had a niece wrote this here, and I'm not reading all of it, just one little paragraph that she wrote about my mom after she died. And so I'll just finish on that. I can hardly think of her without thinking about water. Not clear, cold water, but warm, smooth, soothing, clean water. The water seems to represent her. She loved the water. She loved floating in the water. She could float better than anyone. She barely made the water ripple. She was at peace there floating on the water, the warm, clean water. I loved to watch her. She had such grace. She was so quiet and confident. It was a kingdom. I want to thank everybody for being here.
Could we have the Hyde family stand, please? Give them another hand. Obviously, Norma loved her mother. Hold it up high, clearly. Walter Kenneth Olsen came to Star Valley in his 20s in about 1930 and stayed to the end of his life, partly because of a pretty girl named Carol Call. In the beginning, he worked for the U.S. Forest Service as a CCC supervisor, building the Grays River Road, telephone lines to Grays River and Alpine. Ken made many friends wherever he went, in the CCCs, in his stores in Freedom, and for many years in Afton operating Ken's Furniture and Appliance. Ken had great faith in the future of Afton and gave long hours of service to the Lions Club in every position up to district governor for the state of Wyoming. He gave great service to the Wyoming Travel Commission, to the Afton Chamber of Commerce, to the Star Valley Development Association, and as mayor of Afton. Many of those associations he got started. He was the driving force behind the construction of the Oakhorn Arch. And even he probably would be amazed at how much we all love it and how many pictures have been taken of it over the years. Ken's son, W. Kenneth Olsen, will represent the family in accepting his induction into the Hall of Fame. And Ken Olsen's granddaughters, Jenny and Sarah, will unveil a picture.
It's a great pleasure for me to be here this morning
Get close to the mic.
and to talk to you about my father, who was born 112 years ago in Emory, Utah, on March 28, 1903. He was born into a family, he was the fourth child in a family that had 7 boys and 3 girls. He was, as he grew up, he had to take a lot of responsibility because he had,
Act like you love it.
I have to tell you why I'm here. There's, my dad had myself and my brother Michael, and he called me up and told me that he had inducted into this Hall of Fame. And he's all right to talk, but you have to give it. He always got the best of it. And here I am. As I was saying, he kept taking responsibility because his older brother, Chester, had moved away and lived very close to where the family was there. He had another brother who had a serious heart condition due to rheumatic fever. And so he was the one, the oldest son, that basically had to take a lot of responsibility at that time. His father passed on when he was 15, so he ended up having to really take over all the responsibility for that family, for his mother and for all his siblings. But even while he was doing that, he managed to graduate from high school. Finished a couple of quarters at Snow College and also at Utah State Agricultural University in Utah. Later on, he attended a Salt Lake Telegraph School in Salt Lake City. He got a chance to see a lot of Wyoming when he was about 7 years old. In 1910, his family packed up for the whole summer and moved up, well, didn't really move, but visited Yellowstone Park, and he did that with horses and wagons, so it took him practically the whole summer to do that. His dad kept some kind of a journal on that. I haven't had a chance to read that. I'd like to have a chance to read that and see some of the things that happened during that time. And as a young man living in Utah, he had some friends, and they were like a lot of kids that age, wandering around. They came upon a mountain in Utah that has many different colored rocks, different colored things like that. There's also a spring down there by it, which the water runs over some yellow ground until the water runs over it's really yellow. So as a little bit of a trick, they planted a sign there and called it the Big Rock Cave Mountain. They planted a sign by the spring called the Lemonade Springs. And those names came from a song that was popular at that time too. And that particular name for those things is still the official name today. And I don't think I recognized for that, but they're the ones who put the signs up for that. He moved to Star Valley in 1930, and he worked with the Forest Service. He worked with the Forest Service when they built the Fraser River Road, and he also was involved in some insect control projects at the same time. About that time, this country was going through one of its worst recessions ever in the 1930s, and they created the CCC camps, and he became a supervisor for the CCCs. And like was previously mentioned, he was responsible for the telegraph and telephone line that came through the Fraser River area and from Afton to Alabama. He was a supervisor for the CCC when that took place. He met, Hyrum courted, married Carol Call, who's the daughter of Roland B. Call and Mary B. Call. And they were married January 25th, 1938 in Salt Lake City. They had 2 sons, myself and my brother, who got me in this position, Mike. He started his business career in Freedom. And in Freedom, he had a grocery store and a furniture store. And he was there in the early years of World War II. So the grocery store, he got a chance to see a lot of the rationing that took place for sugar and those kind of things that took place at that time. He made a lot of friends down there. He got a lot of people with Freedom that he really enjoyed. And later on, as he worked with his wife's uncle, which was Jack Mallory, and he had a furniture store, and my dad bought that furniture store and lived Afton and ran that furniture store for years and years there. He was very civically minded, and he liked Star Valley a lot. And when he was one of the members of the first Lions Club in Afton was ever created, he served as practically every office in that club, starting with president, board of directors, zone chairman, deputy district governor, and attended 2 national conventions as a result of that, one in Chicago and one in Dallas, Texas. He was chairman of the Lions Club when they had their state convention here in 1963. He was appointed to the State Travel Commission by Governor Cliff Hansen, where he served there for 4 years. He got a chance to travel all around the state of Wyoming and work on tourism in this state for that time. He considered that to be one of the highlights of his civic responsibilities and things that he did in his life. He served as president of the Afton Chamber of Commerce during this time. Talked about the Elkhorn Orchard, that was when that was started. He helped make that not only famous, but an unusual landmark that has made this town famous. You go out on YouTube, you can see Afton Wyoming with the alcohol farms there all the time. He worked with Lou Gardner a lot, who was the local game warden at that time. Lou got the permission to go on to the elk refuge up down there by Alpines, and that gave him an opportunity to pick up some of those antlers a lot easier than they had to go out and all over the state of Wyoming for. They did put a lot of time and wiring things together to get that Elkhorn artillery put up, but they finally got it up. The countless hours spent doing that. He organized, or helped organize, the Afton Businessmen's Association, and later served as president. He was a member of the Development Association, was instrumental in getting Star Studs here, was here for a few years, and helped Tommy here for a few years. He was elected to mayor in 1968, he served 1 term, and after that term, he decided it was time to do something he wanted to do for practically his whole life, so he and his wife went on a mission to Canada, where they spent 2 years on an Indian reservation in Canada in a situation not unlike that he was born in. And no running water, no indoor toilet. He spent 2 years up there. Made a lot of friends up there. He used to get letters, and people would come back from on the way down the top of the style and see what happened. He was very active in church activities. He was always a man of his word. He was honest in all of his things. As I look back, what I took, the legacy that he left, one of the legacies he left for myself and my brother, is the fact that we learned how to work hard because he was a hard worker. I don't remember very many days when I went to country store that he wasn't here at 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And he whistled the same tune all the time. I don't know what that tune was, he did. But he enjoyed work. He was a hard worker. The other legacy he left us was the honesty. He would be, I think, honored but surprised his induction. If he was ever looking for athletics, he was always just doing what he had to do. Thank
you. Could we have the Olsen family stand, please? Very nice to have you here. And where are your pretty girls?
Oh, just give you the crown. Okay, we can do that.
You gotta hold it up, one of you. Higher. How about another hand? Thank you all so very much. We're going to have a musical number now. They've changed it several times and I'm confused. That's it. It's going to be Gwen Clark, is that right? And Brad, and Kyle, and his wife Kylie, accompanied by Mary. Is that true? And they're going to do My Country 'Tis of Thee. Please.
It's not going to pick up. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. Our fathers' God, to thee offer our liberty, to thee we sing. Long may our land be bright with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, great God our King.
Yeah, that's a nice blend, wasn't it? They must be related to each other. If your ancestors were here to accept our honors, they would certainly say to all of their families, work every day to make the heritage you leave to our family inspiring to those who will follow you. Thank you all for being here very much.